Music in the Cafe, a Lukanette alternate universe month-long fanfiction. I will be using the daily prompts found in the Lukanette September 2019 calendar. This is not mine. I will be putting the Tumblr page I found this on in the description box below. I do not claim any credit to it, only to the story. Thank you for watching, reading, or listening. Day 6, First Kiss. Morning, Luka. Luka smiled and waved at his coworker. As per usual, he felt bright and awake, thanks to the mornings with Marinette. By the way, the boss wants you in the office, a coworker said, and Luka nodded. He dropped off his bag and headed into the office on the floor. Hello, sir, he said in a professional tone. Much different from the typically relaxed and carefree sound of his voice when speaking to friends and family. Luka, you have a new work partner, and I am hoping that you will explain to her what our working expectations are like here. Luka nodded. I will, he said. His boss nodded his head and turned back to his work, probably deciding who he was supposed to veto a raise to or email angrily. Luka left the office silently and walked quickly back to his cubicle. Sitting down, he sighed and rubbed his temples. Luka was a free spirit. He didn't like being confined to quiet places with so many rules as school once had. There were reasons that he wanted to go into an art career. At least there, he could express his creativity. Here in an office job, everything was order and perfection. He had to learn the expectations and act accordingly. As a musician, his mind could bloom and expand, rather than follow a code to a T. Clearly, Luka didn't like being contained, hence why he had begged his mother to allow him to be homeschooled when he reached high school. After a treacherous freshman year, his mother finally caved, saying that he tried it and it didn't work for him. That was probably the first time she had ever been so strict on something. His mother was normally very relaxed. Luka gathered his papers and began to work. He looked on his right to spot the empty desk that used to belong to his work partner. He had gotten a job in the art gallery business, and boy was Luka jealous. Now that was a job where he could express himself in. Oh well, a Broadway show would allow him to do the same thing. Maybe within the character, but he could still put his own spin on it. An hour passed by and the new worker was still not there, and quite frankly, he was okay with that. But alas, they did arrive, and clearly, very late. Luka felt a tap on his shoulders and took out the headphones he plugged in his ears. Turning around and looking up, he saw a girl with long brown hair styled in a particular fashion. Hi, I'm Lila. Are you my new work partner? She asked in a very sweet voice. Sickly sweet. Her hands were clasped together and a very wide smile was on her face. Luka gave her a tight-lipped smile and nodded. Ugh, he did not like talking to people with an overly sweet or bright voice. It gave him a headache. He explained that they would work as partners and all the work expectations they had. Make yourself at home at your desk, he finished with, turning back to his computer. I saw you singing at a cafe. You're really good, Lila said loudly and smiled brightly at him when Luka turned to face her. Oh, cool, thanks, Luka said, too tired to put the effort into another mindless conversation. You know, I play music too, Lila nudged him, clearly wanting to talk more. Really? Luka raised a brow. That interested him. Why had you told him this? Yes. I play drums and piano, and I was a flute player for a while, and saxophone in high school. I even played the cello and other things. I was really good at them all, like natural talent and all, I guess. A band even asked me to play for them, Lila said excitedly. She counted off each instrument and others on her fingers and the others that she didn't name. Luca raised both brows in surprise, making Lila giggle like a child. That's a lot of instruments, Luca said after a pause. He wondered why a person so talented was working at an office job and not in Broadway or in a symphony or like anything else. What bands did you play for? Oh, there were so many, I can't even remember. They just kept asking me to join them, but I was busy and it was so long ago, so now I just turned them all down. Oh, Lucas said. This girl was kind of weird. Who didn't know the name of a band that asked you to play for them? Do you know anything else other than guitar? Lila said, still trying to keep the conversation afloat. Lucas shook his head, focused more on getting all the times aligned for an event. Oh, we should play together sometime. We'd make a great duo, Lila mused, not even worrying about her work at all. Luca looked at her inquiringly. Have you gotten the caters? Already gotten the caters in the past 5 minutes you were here? He asked. She waved him off with a laugh and flip of the hand. Oh yeah, I just sent an email to the catering company that I know, and they'll do it, so it's settled. Luca cocked his head in surprise. Normally, it took a call to see if the company was what they needed, emails of the food they needed to serve, another call to get the people counts, calls to the customer to confirm it's what they wanted, and then a final call to the company to make sure everything goes as planned. This girl was either way too good at her job or way too good at pretending that she was. That's fast. Did you send them everything they wanted? Do they have it all? He asked. He was just so confused by how the heck she had completed her task. Lila laughed slightly and hit his arm, to which he moved the slightest bit farther away from. Oh, silly. I've worked with this company before, and they have everything. I know, all the top chefs, and they always call me with new foods to put on their menu. Luca looked at her. Well, this girl was oddly connected. That's cool, he said, not even sure what else to add. Throughout the next hour, Luca continued to plan specific times and calling different companies and the customers to make sure everything was as they wanted. And during it all, Lila kept trying to make more conversation and pestering him. It was unknown to Luca if she had even done anything since the first email. Instead of entertaining her childlike giggles and excited interest in speaking to him, he waved her off and did his job so he could leave for lunch as soon as possible. As soon as he called the florist, confirming 8 bouquets of peach flowers, lavender carnations, pink wax flowers, blue irises, and a bunch of other flowers he knew nothing about, but searched up. Lucas sighed and stood from his desk where he had been at for hours. Are you going to lunch? Lila said quickly when she noticed him getting up. Luca nodded. Can I come eat lunch with you? There's a nice sandwich spot nearby, she asked. Luca thought for a second. She was, kind of annoying, and that was something he knew for sure, but he also knew they'd be working together a lot, and it was probably a good idea to be civil and maybe even friends. Sure, he shrugged. Lila squealed excitedly and scrambled out of her chair. It's down the street. We can walk, she said quickly, following him out of the office like a lost puppy. Luca nodded for an okay, and silently they walked down the street. Luca slightly in front of Lila, and every time she got close, he moved even farther away. She was really pushing this talking to him and being friends with him thing, and it was getting weird. When they got to the shop, Lila picked a table outside and they ordered their lunches. Oh, I just love them! The owner is such a sweetheart, Lila gushed. Luca nodded. Oh, you seem rather connected? Luca dragged. Yeah, I guess I am, Lila gleamed. Do you think you're gonna start a band? She asked, turning the conversation over. Luca shrugged. Probably not. When Luca was young, his dream was to lead a band, but now, having seen all the band breakup disasters, it was not a card he wanted to play. Quietly, they both ate their sandwiches. Lila made more talk and Luca just let her babble. Apparently, she was the best cello player when she was at school in New England, and then she mentioned she grew up in America, LA, and learned to play the trumpet there. Wow, you are an accomplished musician, Luca gaped. That was quite a rep list that any producer would take. Lila giggled and blushed. Yeah, I even uploaded a song to Spotify and I got like tens of thousands of listens. But then I pulled it because people kept bothering me to make more songs and managers started hounding me. Luca nodded. Lila was pretty strange for not taking, any of these opportunities. I'm just, not a fan of fame and notoriety, she admitted. Strange, Luca thought. Lila talked so freely about her achievements, it seemed like she wanted everyone to know them. Not really a modest person's route, but whatever. Besides, I was doing other things at that time. Like, being a teen idol definitely would have made them harder. Luca raised a brow up, intrigued. Who had the time to do other stuff if they played so many instruments and were moving around so much? It seemed unreal. Other stuff? What time did you have for other stuff? He asked. But Lila shrugged and was smiling at his interest in her life. Oh, I was like a track star and one of the best mathletes at school. All 4 years, she said nonchalantly. Luca's eyes bulged out of his head. How did you have any time for anything? He cried out. Lila giggled, moving her hand closer to his. Oh, it was all natural talent, so it wasn't like any hard work or extra practice I had to put in. Luca nodded, even though he was skeptical of the truth in our words. Literally, who had that much time? And who was that good at everything? Didn't you move around in high school? Luca asked, realizing that she had mentioned her schooling in China, Britain, Finland, and Canada. Oh, I did. I was so good at all the schools, she explained. Luca nodded his head. So, did you learn all the languages? I mean, you must know everyone considering how many places you've been to. Lila made a very tight and forced smile. Yeah, I'm so lucky. I'm good with languages and pick them up really fast, or else schooling would be so hard, she said. Luca nodded again, but began to wonder if she spoke so many languages and traveled to all these places. Why didn't she have an accent? Shaking off the doubtful thoughts about a person he had, just met, he continued to listen, but thought about how long they had been out for. He checked his phone for the time, and their lunch break ended in about 10 minutes. We should head back, he announced. They'd already paid for the bill, separately, he may add. It was so fun talking to you, Lila mused, and Luca nodded with a polite smile. Before he could even get up, Lila began to lean towards him, clearly about to kiss him. Whoa! Luca shouted, jumping back and out of his seat. This shocked even Lila, who Luca stood far away from her, breathing heavily for the sudden attempted kiss. "What are you doing?" he asked. Lila looked just as confused as he was. I thought you were into me," she admitted. Luca crinkled his eyebrows together in shock and confusion. "I'm not. Where'd you get the hints?" "You enjoyed our date," she argued. Luca's eyes widened. No, what? No, this isn't a date." Lila scowled. "We're eating lunch together." Luca looked at her, mildly angry at her for trying to bait him into kissing her, and that was very much annoying. "You literally asked if you could join me for lunch. This is not a date," Luca explained. Lila sighed, her face no longer mad and tight, but now innocent and sad. "I'm sorry. I guess I just took it wrong," she said quietly. Luca looked at her again. "I'm going back and packing up. I'm gonna work at home," he said, not even giving her a second look before walking back. She didn't chase after him, so that was good. Getting back to the office, Luca gave tired smiles to his coworkers, and packing up his laptop and papers and stuffing it into his bag, he stopped for a second and breathed. Yeah, it was kind of mean just to leave Lila and get angry at her for misinterpreting some interactions, but if she really was confused by the signals, she wouldn't argue that it was a date, but she did and got all mad that he wouldn't freaking kiss her. Luca had never said anything or showed in any way, shape, or form that he was into her. Like, he literally moved away from her. Although, it probably wasn't the best idea to get mad at your work partner, the first day, but they could figure it out later. Slinging the bag over his shoulders, he waved goodbye as he left the building and was prepared to go home. Goodness, not only did that girl invade his space and yet offended that he didn't like her, and had some pretty inconsistent stories. Oh my god. If Luca thought he was tired at the beginning of the day, he had no idea what was in store for him later. And luckily, he had an idea for a cure. He could definitely go for a coffee right about now. "Hey Luca, fancy seeing you this time," Tiki chimed as Luca opened the doors to the cafe. "Hi, Tiki. She's in the studio. Glad can take you." Tiki pointed to the black-haired barista who groaned but began leading Luca anyways. "You want me to be friends with another?" he growled in a low voice at his girlfriend. It was quite enough that any normal person couldn't catch this sentence, but Luca had trained musician ears that heard even the smallest harmonies in a complicated song, so he could pick it up without even trying to. Tiki rolled her eyes, replying back in a hushed voice. "Oh, please, don't act like I told him to kiss his feet." Plag threw her a sour look before beckoning for Luca to come follow him towards the stairs. "So, how long have you worked here?" Lucas asked, wanting to at least be on good terms with the important people in Marinette's life, and Plag was certainly one of them. "Since it opened," he replied in a gruff voice. "Okay, so he doesn't want to talk to me," Luca noted in his mind. Talking to Tiki or Alia was no problem. They were warm and welcoming and inviting. Plag, on the other hand, well, let's just say his leather jacket and tough-as-nail gaze said it all. Luca decided that it was probably in his best interest to stay quiet until a situation arose where Plag needed to communicate with him. "Yo, Mari, you got a visitor," Plag called out, and Marinette was at her workstation, sewing together something, and soft rock music was playing via the speakers. Upon hearing her name, Marinette stopped the machine and turned around. Her eyes widened and she kind of jumped in her seat. Luca! Hey, I thought you'd be at work, she said warmly and shaking off any of the previous shock, and nodded Plagoff, who retreated back down the stairs. She motioned for him to take the seat next to her, and Luca obliged with a smile. Well, I was very productive and got most of my work done, so now I just need to finish importing some names, and I can do that at home or, say, a cafe. He smirked, raising a playful brow at her. Marinette bit her lip before breaking out into a wide smile. I'm glad you decided to work here. You can stay in the studio if you'd like, she offered. That would be fun. You can work on your stuff, and I'll work on mine, he said brightly. Work really tired me out today, so I'm so glad you're close by, he lamented. Marinette's cheeks flushed the slightest bit of pink. What happened? Or is work always draining? She asked, her voice tender and caring. He shook his head. Nothing major, just a new work partner, and honestly, I don't think I'm a very big fan of her. Marinette twisted her face to a side. Why is that? Luca sighed, touching his temples for a second. I don't think that I can depend on her as a work partner, and she has rather terrible social skills. She's the kind of person who'd do everything in high school but not show up to their practices, yet claim all the rewards, Luca explained, giving a dry laugh afterwards. Marinette nodded her head, her eyes having a knowing look in them and her lips in a tight line. Those people, you'd expect them to grow out of it, but rarely do they ever. Luca gestured with his hand out, raising it high. Amen, he agreed. Marinette giggled. Aw, that's so adorable, Luca thought, smiling wistfully and knowing why. Suddenly, Marinette's phone began to chime, and she dropped the fabric that was in her hands and scrambled to pick it up. Sorry, I might need to get that, she said with a nervous laughter. Oh, it's fine. Luca brushed it off and dragged up his laptop as she plucked her phone from the ravel of fabric nest that it was in. Luca heard her breath hitch, and he looked up to see what was wrong. Her face had paled, and her blue eyes were wide. Her eyebrows were high, and her mouth was slightly parted. I have to go take this, she rambled. Luca nodded slowly, mildly worried because, normally a phone call didn't elicit that reaction. He didn't think it was a serious problem, such as a bad diagnosis or a death of someone she knew, because then the reaction would be more expressive and way more sad. However, Marinette shot up from her chair and threw open the doors and raced down the stairs. And that made Luca even more worried and shocked. His eyebrows were crinkled together. What the heck, or who the heck had called?